It was another boring Thursday night for David. He sat in his messy living room staring at his computer screen. Lines of code filled the monitor, but his mind kept wandering. The leftover pizza on his desk was getting cold, but he didn't care. This had become his life after the divorce. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. The rain outside made everything feel even more lonely. His house felt too big and too quiet. He used to love having his own space, but now it just reminded him how alone he was. His phone hadn't buzzed with a message in 3 days. Even his mom had stopped calling as much. David rubbed his tired eyes and stretched his arms. Maybe he should just go to bed early tonight. There was nothing good on TV anyway, and he'd already spent 12 hours debugging the same stupid program. His boss would have to wait until tomorrow for the fix. Just as he was about to close his laptop, someone started knocking on his front door. Not the gentle knock of a neighbor asking for sugar. This was desperate, urgent knocking that made his heart jump. He looked at his phone. 9:47 p.m. Who could be visiting this late? He rarely got visitors during the day, let alone at night. Maybe it was Mrs. Chen from next door having some emergency. Or perhaps someone's car had broken down and they needed help. David walked to the front door slowly, his bare feet making no sound on the wooden floor. He flipped on the porch light and looked through the peephole. What he saw made him blink twice to make sure he wasn't seeing things. A woman stood on his doorstep, and she was absolutely beautiful. But she looked terrible at the same time. Her long dark hair was wet from the rain and stuck to her face. Her clothes were strange. They looked expensive but were made from some kind of fabric he'd never seen before. The material seemed to shimmer slightly under the porch light. She was shivering not just from the cold but from something else. Fear, maybe. Her eyes kept darting around like she was looking for something or someone. When she knocked again, her hand was shaking. David's first thought was that this had to be some kind of trick. Maybe she was running some kind of scam, or worse. His divorce had made him suspicious of everyone, especially women who showed up out of nowhere looking for help. But something about her seemed genuinely terrified. He opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain lock attached. "Can I help you?" The woman looked directly at him, and her eyes were the most unusual color he'd ever seen. They were blue, but not regular blue. They seemed to have tiny flecks of silver in them that caught the light in a weird way. "Please," she said, and her voice was soft but desperate. "I know this sounds crazy, but I need somewhere to stay tonight. I can't be alone. I can't sleep alone." Her accent was hard to place. It sounded almost American, but some words had a strange rhythm to them. David's divorce lawyer had warned him about situations like this. Women who showed up with sob stories, looking for money or a place to crash. But this didn't feel like that. This woman looked genuinely scared, like she was running from something. "Look, I'm sorry, but I don't know you," David said through the crack in the door. "There are hotels in town, or if you're in real trouble, you should call the police." The woman's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. Instead, she took a deep breath and said something that stopped David cold. "I'm not from around here. I'm not from anywhere around here. I know that doesn't make sense, but I'm telling you the truth. I crashed, my car broke down, and I've been walking for hours. I just need one night. One safe place to rest. I won't hurt you, I promise." Something in her voice made David believe her. Maybe it was because he'd been so lonely himself that he recognized the sound of desperation. Or maybe it was because she looked so lost and confused, like she genuinely didn't know where she was. Against every smart instinct he had, David unhooked the chain and opened the door wider. "Okay, but just for tonight, and I'm keeping my phone nearby." The relief on her face was immediate and overwhelming. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much. I'm Luna, by the way." "David." He stepped aside to let her in, immediately noticing how she moved. It was graceful, almost like she was floating instead of walking. She also seemed to be looking at everything in his house like she'd never seen such things before. Luna stopped in his living room and stared at his TV, which was showing the weather forecast. She watched it with the kind of fascination most people reserved for fireworks or magic tricks. When the meteorologist pointed to the weather map, Luna actually gasped softly. "That's remarkable," she said. "You can see the weather patterns for the entire region at once." David frowned. Who didn't know how weather forecasts worked? "Yeah, it's just the local news. Are you okay? You seem a little disoriented." Luna quickly looked away from the TV. "Sorry, I'm just tired. It's been a very long day." David showed her to his spare bedroom, which was mostly used for storage. He quickly moved some boxes and found clean sheets for the bed. Luna watched him make the bed with that same intense focus she'd given the TV. "The bathroom is right across the hall," David said. "There are towels in the cabinet if you want to shower and get warm. Are you hungry? I have some leftover pizza, or I could make some soup." Luna shook her head. "No food, thank you, but you're very kind." David left her alone and went back to his living room, but he couldn't focus on anything. He kept listening for sounds from the spare room, wondering what he'd gotten himself into. Every few minutes, he'd hear her moving around. But it didn't sound like she was settling down for sleep. Around midnight, David decided to check on her. He knocked softly on the door. "Luna, are you okay in there?" No answer. He knocked again, a little louder. "Luna?" "I'm fine," came her voice, but it sounded strained. David opened the door just a crack and peeked in. Luna was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in her strange clothes, staring out the window at the night sky. She looked completely rigid, like she was afraid to move or relax. "You said you couldn't sleep alone?" David said gently. "What did you mean by that?" Luna turned to look at him, and in the dim light from the hallway, her eyes seemed to glow slightly. "Where I come from, we don't sleep the way you do. We need presence." Another mind nearby. It's hard to explain. David found himself stepping into the room without really meaning to. "Are you sick? Do you need a doctor?" "No doctor can help me with this," Luna said sadly. "I just need to know someone is close by. Someone who cares enough to stay awake while I rest." The loneliness in her voice reminded David so much of his own feelings that his heart ached. Here was someone who understood what it felt like to be completely alone in the world. "Would it help if I sat in that chair for a while?" David asked, pointing to the old armchair in the corner. "I wasn't really sleeping anyway." Luna's face lit up with hope. "You would do that? For a stranger?" "We're not strangers anymore," David said, surprising himself with how true that felt. "We're just two people who don't want to be alone tonight." As David settled into the chair, Luna finally lay down on the bed. Within minutes, her breathing became deeper and more relaxed. David watched her sleep and noticed that she looked peaceful for the first time since she'd appeared at his door. He sat there in the dark, wondering what he'd gotten himself into, but somehow not regretting it. For the first time in months, he felt like he was actually helping someone instead of just hiding from the world. Outside, the rain continued to fall, but inside David's house, two lonely people had found something they both desperately needed: the simple comfort of not being alone. David woke up with a stiff neck and sore back. He'd fallen asleep in the armchair sometime during the night, and now morning sunlight was streaming through the spare bedroom window. For a moment, he forgot where he was and why he was there. Then, he remembered Luna. He looked over at the bed, expecting to see her still sleeping, but she was gone. The sheets were perfectly made, as if no one had ever slept there. For a second, David wondered if he'd dreamed the whole thing. Maybe his loneliness had finally made him lose his mind. But then he heard sounds coming from his kitchen. Someone was moving around, opening cabinets and drawers. David quietly walked toward the kitchen, unsure of what he'd find. Luna was standing at his counter, and David's broken coffee machine was not only working, but making the most amazing coffee smell he'd experienced in years. The machine had been sitting there broken for 3 months, and David had been too lazy to either fix it or throw it away. "Good morning," Luna said without turning around. "I hope you don't mind that I borrowed your kitchen." David stared at the coffee machine. "How did you fix that? I've been meaning to call a repair guy for months." Luna finally turned to face him, and David noticed she looked completely different from the night before. Her strange clothes were somehow clean and unwrinkled, Her hair was perfectly styled and she seemed to glow with energy. She definitely didn't look like someone who had been caught in the rain and desperate just 8 hours ago. It wasn't really broken, Luna said with a small smile. Just a few connections that needed to be reconnected properly. Your species builds things in interesting ways. David frowned. My species? Luna's eyes widened slightly, like she'd said something she shouldn't have. I meant people around here. You know, Americans. I'm not from America originally. That didn't really explain her weird comment, but David decided not to push it. He was more interested in the coffee, which smelled better than anything from the fancy shops downtown. Luna poured him a cup, and when David tasted it, he almost groaned with pleasure. It was perfect, not too strong, not too weak, and somehow it tasted like it had flavors he'd never experienced before. This is incredible, David said. What did you do differently? I just paid attention to what the machine needed, Luna said. She was looking around his kitchen with that same intense focus she'd shown his TV the night before. You have so many fascinating devices. This one, for instance. She pointed at his microwave. It uses controlled energy waves to heat food from the inside out. Brilliant. David stared at her. You talk about a microwave like you've never seen one before. Luna caught herself again. Sorry, I'm still a little disoriented from yesterday. I hit my head when my car crashed. Sometimes I say things that don't make sense. David accepted this explanation, even though something felt off about it. Luna moved around his kitchen like she was studying everything, not using it. She opened his refrigerator and examined the contents like they were artifacts in a museum. Aren't you hungry? David asked. I could make some eggs or there's cereal. I don't eat the same things you do, Luna said, then quickly added, I have food allergies, very specific ones. It's easier if I just don't eat breakfast. David was starting to notice a pattern. Every time Luna said something unusual, she'd quickly cover it with a more normal explanation. But her first instincts seemed to be the honest. Once after David had his coffee and some toast, he decided to work from home again. He set up his laptop at the kitchen table so he could keep an eye on Luna, who seemed fascinated by everything in his house. While David tried to focus on his code, Luna wandered around looking at his possessions. She spent 15 minutes just staring at his bookshelf, running her fingers along the spines like she was reading them through touch. When she picked up his smartphone, which he'd left charging on the counter, she held it like it was made of precious metal. This device, she said slowly, it connects you to other people anywhere in the world instantly. It's just a phone, David said, looking up from his laptop. Everyone has one. Luna turned the phone over in her hands. Everyone? Every person in your country has one of these? Pretty much. Luna, are you sure you're okay? You're acting like you've never seen basic technology before. Luna sat down across from David at the table. She was quiet for a long moment, like she was deciding something important. Finally, she looked him straight in the eyes. David, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible, but I need you to listen, really listen, before you decide I'm crazy. David saved his work and closed the laptop. Something in Luna's voice told him this was serious. Okay, I'm listening. I'm not from around here. I'm not from anywhere on this planet. David waited for her to laugh or say she was kidding, but Luna's expression remained completely serious. My people sent a small group to study your world. We've been watching Earth for a long time, but we'd never made direct contact before. Something went wrong with our ship. It crashed in the mountains about 50 miles from here. I'm the only one who survived. David felt like someone had dumped ice water over his head. Luna, that's impossible, I know. But think about last night. Think about how I found your house specifically, even though I'd been walking for hours. Think about how I fixed your coffee machine. Think about how I knew things about your devices that I shouldn't know. David's mind was racing. Luna was right. There had been strange things about her from the beginning. Her unusual way of moving, her fascination with ordinary objects, the way she seemed to see things differently than everyone else. If you're really, David couldn't bring himself to say the word alien. If you're really from somewhere else, prove it. Luna nodded like she'd been expecting this. She walked over to David's laptop and opened it. Without asking for his password, she somehow accessed files that David didn't even know existed on his computer. Complex star charts filled the screen, maps of constellations and solar systems that looked nothing like anything David had ever seen. "This is where I come from," Luna said, pointing to a cluster of stars. "It's about 47 light-years from here. My people call it Kepler 442b, but you haven't discovered it yet." David stared at the screen. The star charts were incredibly detailed and showed mathematical calculations that were way beyond anything he understood. But they looked real, professional, like something NASA might have created. "How did you put this on my computer?" David asked. "The same way I fixed your coffee machine. Technology is technology, no matter where it comes from. The principles are usually similar." David sat back in his chair, feeling overwhelmed. Part of him wanted to believe Luna was just really good with computers and had somehow hacked his system. But another part of him, the part that had felt so alone and disconnected from the world, wanted to believe that she was exactly what she claimed to be. "Why are you telling me this?" David asked. Luna's expression became sad. "Because I'm dying, David. My people can't survive alone for long periods. We need connection with other intelligent minds to live. Last night, when you stayed with me, you probably saved my life, but I can't keep lying to you about who I am." "How long do you have?" "I don't know. Maybe days, maybe weeks. It depends on how much contact I can maintain with others like you." David looked at Luna. Really looked at her. Now that he knew what to look for, he could see that she wasn't quite human. Her movements were too graceful, her eyes too bright, her understanding of things too quick and deep. But she was also the first person in months who had made him feel like he mattered. She needed him, and he needed to be needed. "What do you want from me?" David asked. "Just what you gave me last night. Companionship. Someone who cares enough to stay close while I rest. I know it's a lot to ask of a stranger." David thought about his empty life, his boring job, his complete lack of meaningful relationships. Here was someone who needed exactly what he had to offer: his time, his presence, his willingness to not be alone. "We're not strangers anymore," David said, echoing what he'd told her the night before. "And you're not the only one who's afraid of being alone." Over the next few days, David and Luna fell into a strange but comfortable routine. David would work from home during the day while Luna explored his house, learning about human life by examining everything from his toaster to his collection of old movies. At night, David would sit in the spare room chair while Luna rested, and they would talk for hours about their different worlds. Luna was a quick learner, but she struggled with things that seemed simple to David. She couldn't figure out how to use the TV remote, holding it upside down and pressing random buttons. When David's neighbor knocked on the door to borrow a cup of sugar, Luna hid in the bathroom until the woman left. "Why did you do that?" David asked after Mrs. Chen was gone. "I don't know how to act around other humans yet," Luna admitted. "What if I say something wrong? What if they notice I'm different?" David realized Luna was right to be worried. Even after knowing her for 3 days, he sometimes caught her doing things that would seem weird to anyone else. Like the way she touched objects before using them, as if she was reading their purpose through her fingertips, or how she never blinked when she was concentrating really hard on something. But David was also noticing other changes. Luna was getting better at pretending to be human, but she was also getting weaker. Her skin looked paler each day, and sometimes she would zone out in the middle of conversations like her mind was somewhere else entirely. "Are you feeling okay?" David asked one afternoon when he found Luna sitting motionless on his couch staring at nothing. Luna snapped back to attention. "Sorry, I was just thinking about home." "Tell me about it," David said, sitting down next to her. "What was your life like there?" Luna's eyes grew distant. "Very different from here. We lived in groups, always connected to each other's thoughts and feelings. No one was ever truly alone. When someone was hurt or scared, everyone felt it and came to help. When someone was happy, that joy spread to others." "That sounds nice," David said, "but also kind of overwhelming." It was beautiful, Luna said softly. We had cities that floated among the clouds, and oceans that glowed with their own light. Our days were longer than yours, about 30 of your hours. So we had more time for art and music and learning. David tried to imagine such a place. Do you miss it? Every moment, Luna whispered. But I'm starting to understand that I may never see it again. The others from my ship, they're gone. And even if my people sent another ship to look for us, they wouldn't know where to find me. David felt a pain in his chest that he didn't expect. The thought of Luna being trapped on Earth forever, slowly dying from loneliness, made him incredibly sad. But there was also a selfish part of him that didn't want her to leave. She was the first person in years who made him feel important and needed. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of a car pulling into David's driveway. David looked out the window and saw a black sedan with tinted windows. 2 people in dark suits got out and started walking toward his front door. Luna, David said urgently. Hide. Now. Luna took one look at the car and her face went white. They found me. Who found you? I don't know, but they're not here for a friendly visit. I can sense their intentions. And they're not good. Luna quickly ran to the spare bedroom while David tried to calm himself down. Maybe these people were just salespeople or someone from his work, but when they knocked on the door, it sounded official and serious. David opened the door to find a woman and a man, both wearing identical black suits and sunglasses. They looked exactly like what David imagined government agents would look like. Mr. Martinez? The woman said. I'm Agent Rodriguez, and this is Agent Park. We're with a government department that deals with unusual situations. May we come in? David's heart was beating so fast he was sure they could hear it. What kind of unusual situations? The kind that involve electromagnetic signatures that don't match any known technology, Agent Park said. We've been tracking some interesting readings in this neighborhood for the past few days. David tried to keep his voice steady. I don't know what you're talking about. Agent Rodriguez smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Mr. Martinez, we know someone is staying in your house, someone who isn't quite normal. We're not here to cause trouble, but we do need to ask some questions. I have a friend visiting, David said. There's nothing unusual about that. Your friend wouldn't happen to be about 5 feet 6 inches tall, with dark hair and unusually bright blue eyes, would she? Agent Park asked. David felt his stomach drop. They definitely knew about Luna. I don't have to answer your questions without a lawyer present. The 2 agents looked at each other. Agent Rodriguez spoke again, and this time her voice was more serious. Mr. Martinez, we're not here to arrest anyone, but we are dealing with a potential national security situation. If you're harboring someone who crashed here from somewhere else, then we need to know about it. David realized they knew exactly what Luna was. Somehow they'd been tracking her since she arrived. Maybe they'd been watching other people like her for years. What do you want? David asked. Just to talk, Agent Park said. We know she needs help, and we might be able to provide it, but we need to understand her situation first. David was torn. These agents seemed to know about Luna's condition, and maybe they really could help her. But Luna had been terrified when she saw their car. Her instincts told her these people were dangerous. Give me a minute, David said. He closed the door and ran to the spare bedroom. Luna was sitting on the bed looking more scared than he'd ever seen her. They want to take me away, don't they? They say they just want to talk. They claim they might be able to help you. Luna shook her head. David, my people have stories about what happens when we're discovered by government agencies on other worlds. They study us like laboratory animals. They want to understand our technology so they can use it for weapons. But what if they're telling the truth? What if they really can help you get home? Or what if they lock me up somewhere and I die slowly alone in a cell? David looked at Luna's frightened face and made his decision. Then we don't let them take you. How can we stop them? They're government agents with authority and resources. We're just 2 people. David thought quickly. They're watching the front of the house, but not the back. There's a path through the woods behind my yard that leads to the old highway. If you can make it there, you could disappear. What about you? They'll know you helped me escape. David had thought about that too. I'll tell them you ran away on your own, that I tried to stop you but couldn't. Luna stood up and took David's hands. Her skin was always slightly cooler than human skin, but now it felt ice cold. David, if I leave now, I might not see you again. And without someone to stay close to me at night, I'll start getting weaker again. Then we'll figure out another way. Maybe there are other people like me who would understand and help. Luna looked into David's eyes, and he could see how much. This decision was hurting her. She was being forced to choose between her safety and her survival. I don't want to leave you, she said quietly. These past few days have been the happiest I've been since I arrived on Earth. You make me feel less alone. You make me feel less alone too, David said. But right now, keeping you safe is more important than keeping you close. The agents knocked on the door again, more insistently this time. You have to go now, David said. Luna grabbed a jacket from the closet and headed for the back door. Before she left, she turned back to David one more time. Thank you, she said, for everything, for taking me in when I was desperate, for believing me when I told you the truth, and for protecting me now. Promise me you'll be careful, David said, and promise me you'll find a way to contact me when it's safe. Luna nodded and slipped out the back door. David watched through the kitchen window as she disappeared into the woods behind his house. Then he took a deep breath and went to face the agents at his front door, hoping he was good enough at lying to protect the person who had become the most important thing in his life. David opened the front door with sweaty palms, trying his best to look confused and innocent. Agent Rodriguez and Agent Park were still standing there, but now they looked more impatient than before. Sorry about that, David said. I was just checking if my friend was still here. She must have left while I was in the shower this morning. Agent Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Your friend left? When exactly did she arrive? And why didn't you mention her before? David's mind raced. He had to be careful not to contradict himself. She showed up a few nights ago, said her car broke down and she needed a place to stay. I felt bad for her, so I let her crash in my spare room. And you didn't think to ask for identification or get her full name? Agent Park asked. Look, she seemed harmless enough. She was just a woman who needed help. I wasn't going to interrogate her like she was a criminal. The two agents exchanged glances. Agent Rodriguez pulled out a small device that looked like a combination of a smartphone and a metal detector. She held it up and it started beeping softly. Mr. Martinez, this device measures electromagnetic signatures. According to our readings, your house has been emitting unusual energy patterns for the past 72 hours. These patterns stopped about 15 minutes ago. David felt his stomach sink. They had technology that could actually track Luna's presence. There was no point in denying she'd been there. Okay, fine, she was here. But she really did leave this morning. I don't know where she went. Agent Park stepped closer to David. What? Did she tell you about herself? Where did she say she was from? David decided to stick as close to the truth as possible. She said she wasn't from around here, that she'd been in some kind of accident and was trying to get home. She seemed confused and scared most of the time. Confused how? Agent Rodriguez asked. Like she'd never seen normal things before. She didn't know how to use my TV remote. She acted like my microwave was some kind of miracle device. I thought maybe she'd hit her head in the car crash and had some kind of memory problems. The agents were writing down everything David said. Agent Rodriguez looked up from her notes. Mr. Martinez, I'm going to be honest with you. The woman who stayed in your house isn't human. She's what we call an extraterrestrial visitor. We've been tracking her since her ship crashed in the mountains last week. Even though David already knew the truth, hearing it said out loud by a government agent was still shocking. You're saying she's an alien? That's exactly what I'm saying, and she's not the first one we've encountered. There have been others, over the years. Most of them are peaceful, but they represent potential security risks that we need to monitor. Agent Park took over the conversation. We know you probably don't believe us, but we also know that she demonstrated abilities that no normal human possesses. Did she fix anything in your house? Show you technology you'd never seen before? David thought about the coffee machine and the star charts on his computer. Maybe a few things. We're not here to hurt her, Agent Rodriguez said. But we do need to understand her situation. Her people's technology could be incredibly valuable for scientific advancement. Medicine, energy, transportation, the possibilities are endless. What happens if you find her? David asked. She'll be taken to a secure facility where she can be properly cared for. Our scientists will study her physiology and technology, but she'll be treated humanely. David didn't believe that for a second. He'd seen enough movies to know what secure facility and scientific study really meant. They wanted to turn Luna into a lab rat. I already told you I don't know where she went, David said firmly. Agent Park pulled out a business card and handed it to David. If she contacts you or if you remember anything else about her time here, call this number immediately. This is a matter of national security. After the agents left, David felt like he couldn't breathe. He walked through his house, looking at all the places Luna had been. The spare bedroom felt empty and cold. The kitchen felt too quiet without her curious questions about every appliance. David realized he had no way to contact Luna or find out if she was safe. She didn't have a phone and he had no idea where she might go. All he could do was wait and hope she would find a way to reach him. 3 days passed with no word from Luna. David couldn't concentrate on work. He barely ate. Every time a car pulled into his driveway, he hoped it might be her. But it never. But on the 4th day, David was sitting in his kitchen drinking coffee when he heard a soft tapping on his back door. His heart jumped and he ran to look outside. Luna was standing in his backyard, but she looked terrible. Her skin was pale and gray and she could barely stand upright. She was leaning against his fence like she might collapse at any moment. David quickly opened the door and helped her inside. Luna, I was so worried about you. Are you okay? I'm dying, Luna said weakly. I told you what happens to my people when we're alone too long. I've been hiding in the woods, sleeping in different places each night, but it's killing me. David helped Luna to the couch and brought her a glass of water. Have you been eating anything? I don't need food the way you do, Luna reminded him, but I need connection with other minds. I need companionship to survive, and I haven't had that since I left here. David felt awful. In trying to protect Luna from the government agents, he'd accidentally put her in a situation that was slowly killing her anyway. The agents came back twice, David said. They're definitely watching the house. I don't think it's safe for you to stay here. I know, Luna said. But I had to see you one more time. I had to tell you something important. Luna reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal mixed with metal. It was about the size of a phone but completely transparent, with lights moving inside it like tiny stars. This is a communication device from my ship, Luna said. I managed to salvage it before the crash. I've been trying to contact others, of my kind who might be on Earth, and I finally got a response. David stared at the device in amazement. There are others like you here? A few. They've been hiding just like I have been. There's a small group about 200 miles from here. They've learned how to blend in with humans, and they have a safe place where I can recover. David felt happy and heartbroken at the same time. Luna would be safe with her own people, but that meant she would be leaving him forever. When do you have to go? David asked. Tonight. They're sending someone to pick me up at a location outside town. I can't stay here any longer. The agents are getting closer and I'm getting too weak to keep running. David nodded even though his heart was breaking. I understand. You have to do what's best for your survival. Luna reached over and took David's hand. I want you to know that these past weeks have been the most meaningful of my life. You showed me kindness when I was at my lowest point. You believed in me when I told you an impossible truth, and you risked your own safety to protect me. You saved me too, David said. I was so lonely before you came. I'd forgotten what it felt like to care about someone else. Luna stood up slowly, still weak but determined. I have to go now. The longer I stay, the more danger I put you in. David walked Luna to the back door, knowing this would be the last time he'd ever see her. At the door, Luna turned back to him. David, I need you to promise me something. Don't let this experience make you go back to being alone. You have so much love to give, and there are people out there who need what you have to offer. I promise, David said. though he couldn't imagine caring about anyone else the way he'd come to care about Luna. Luna kissed David gently on the cheek, and her skin felt cool and soft against his face. Then she walked into the darkness of his backyard and disappeared among the trees. David stood at his back door for a long time, looking out at the empty yard and feeling more alone than he'd ever felt in his entire life. 6 months passed after Luna left, and David's life slowly started to change in ways he never expected. At first, he fell back into his old routine of working alone and avoiding people, but Luna's last words kept echoing in his mind. "Don't let this experience make you go back to being alone." David realized that meeting Luna had taught him something important about himself. He was capable of caring deeply for someone else, even someone completely different from him. That kindness and compassion had always been inside him. He'd just forgotten how to use it. So David started small. He began talking to his neighbors instead of just nodding politely when he saw them. He volunteered at the local animal shelter, on weekends helping take care of dogs and cats that needed homes. He even joined a hiking group that met every Saturday morning. But even as David's social life improved, he never stopped thinking about Luna. Every time he looked at the night sky, he wondered if she was looking at the same stars from wherever she was hiding. He kept the spare bedroom exactly as she'd left it, just in case she ever came back. The government agents had stopped watching his house after a few weeks, but David sometimes noticed unmarked cars in his neighborhood. He figured they were keeping an eye on the area in case Luna or others like her showed up again. One evening in late autumn, David was coming home from his volunteer shift at the animal shelter when he noticed something unusual. There was a woman sitting on his front porch steps, but it was too dark to see her clearly. David's heart started racing. Could it be Luna? But as he got closer, he realized this woman was different. She was older, maybe in her 40s, with short, gray hair and kind eyes. She was wearing normal clothes and looked completely human. "Excuse me," David said carefully. "Can I help you?" The woman stood up and smiled. "You must be David. Luna told me a lot about you. My name is Dr. Chen, no relation to your neighbor. I work with a group that helps people like Luna." David felt his pulse quicken. "Is Luna okay? Where is she?" "She's safe," Dr. Chen said. "She's been living with others of her kind and her health has improved dramatically. But she asks about you all the time. She wanted me to come check on you." David unlocked his front door and invited Dr. Chen inside. In the light of his living room, he could see that she looked tired but determined, like someone who worked very hard at something important. "What kind of group do you work with?" David asked. Dr. Chen sat down on David's couch. "We're a network of humans who know about extraterrestrial visitors living on Earth. Some of us are scientists, some are doctors, some are just ordinary people who happened to encounter someone like Luna and decided to help. How many people like Luna are there? More than you might think, but fewer than the government believes. They come from different worlds, and most of them are here by accident. Their ships crash or they get stranded during research missions. We help them find each other and create safe communities where they can survive." David was amazed. "And the government doesn't know about your group?" "Some officials know we exist, but they leave us alone as long as we're discreet. The visitors we help don't pose any threat to national security. They just want to live peacefully and find a way to either get home or build new lives here." Chen reached into her bag and pulled out a familiar-looking crystal device. "Luna wanted me to give you this. It's a communication device like the one she showed you before, but this one is modified to work with human technology." David took the device, which felt warm in his hands. "She wants to talk to me?" "She wants to do more than talk." David, Luna, has discovered something important about her people's biology. The connection they need to survive doesn't have to be with their own species. Humans can provide the same type of mental and emotional companionship they require. David's heart jumped. What does that mean? It means that humans and Luna's people can form lasting partnerships. Some of the visitors in our network have been living with human companions for years. They help each other. The visitors share their knowledge and abilities, while the humans provide the emotional connection the visitors need to stay healthy. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Luna would like to see you again if you're interested, but this time it would be different. She's learned to live safely among humans, and you would be part of our network. You'd help other visitors who need temporary shelter or assistance. David couldn't believe what he was hearing. Not only could he see Luna again, but he could help others like her. Where is she now? About an hour's drive from here. We've established a small community in the mountains, where several visitors live with their human partners. It's completely hidden from government surveillance, and everyone there is committed to helping each other. David thought about his quiet, lonely life compared to the possibility of being part of something bigger and more meaningful. What would I have to do? Just be yourself, Dr. Chen said, the same person who took in a desperate stranger on a rainy night and protected her when she was in danger. We need people with that kind of compassion. David looked around his empty house. Everything here reminded him of the loneliness he'd felt before Luna arrived. But the thought of seeing her again, of being able to help others like her, filled him with excitement. When can I see her? David asked. Dr. Chen smiled. Right now, if you want. She's actually waiting in my car outside. She was too nervous to come to the door herself. David's heart felt like it might explode. He ran to his front window and looked out. Sure enough, there was a figure sitting in Dr. Chen's car. Even in the darkness, David could recognize Luna's silhouette. He rushed outside with Dr. Chen following behind him. Luna got out of the car, and David could see that she looked completely different from the last time he'd seen her. Her skin had its healthy glow back. Her eyes were bright and alert, and she was wearing clothes that actually fit properly. David, Luna said softly, and her voice was full of emotion. I wasn't sure you'd want to see me again. David didn't know what to say, so he just opened his arms. Luna ran to him and they hugged each other tightly. David realized that this was what he'd been missing for the past 6 months. Not just Luna specifically, but the feeling of being needed and cared for by someone who truly understood him. I missed you so much, David whispered. I missed you, too, Luna said. But I also learned something important while we were apart. I learned that the connection between us isn't just about my survival needs. It's about choosing to care for each other, regardless of where we come from, or what we are. Dr. Chen cleared her throat gently. David, you don't have to decide anything tonight, but if you're interested in joining our community, you're welcome to visit and see what we've built. David looked at Luna, then at Dr. Chen, then back at his empty house. For the first time in his adult life, he felt like he had a real choice about what kind of person he wanted to be. Let's go, David said. I want to see this community. As they drove into the mountains, Luna held David's hand and told him about the amazing things she'd discovered. There were visitors from 5 different worlds living in their community, each with unique abilities and knowledge. They had built incredible technology that could help solve problems like disease and pollution. And they had created a society based on cooperation and mutual support rather than competition and fear. The best part, Luna said, is that everyone there understands what it means to be different, to feel like you don't belong anywhere. But together we've created a place where everyone belongs. David squeezed Luna's hand and looked out at the stars through the car window. 6 months ago, he had been a lonely man hiding from the world. Now he was on his way to join a secret community of humans and aliens working together to help each other survive and thrive. Sometimes, David thought, the most extraordinary adventures begin with the simplest act of kindness, like opening your door to a stranger who needs help on a dark, rainy night.